Hello guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing a mid-year book wrap up. So I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read from January to June. I know I am posting this a little bit late since it is July, but better late than never. And to make this video not so like typical and boring and slow, instead of like going through every book and being like, oh, this is what it is, the ratings, my thoughts, I'm gonna format this video similar to the yes, no, maybe challenge. I'll put an example of what that is on the screen, but essentially I'll show you guys the book and I'll recommend it to you based off the words yes, no, maybe, and then I may get a little bit into why, and that's how we're going to go through this video. So I'm gonna pull up my Goodreads to help read this, but I am like I wouldn't say in a bit of a reading slump, but I'm slowly trying to get back into reading. I kind of wasn't as consistent because I felt like my life was so unsettled and I was just having trouble to like relax enough to get into a book. But now that I feel a bit more settled, I'm slowly getting back into reading, so I am a bit behind on my reading goal. But my reading goal is to read 30 books and I've read 10 so far, so I need 5 books to get back on schedule. But this summer is going to be for getting towards my reading goal. Let me know if you guys will want a reading vlog of me trying to catch up on my reading goal, because I think that could be really fun. But yeah, we're gonna go through each book now. So the first book I read this year was By a Thread by Lucy Score, and I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. And for if you should read this book, I'm gonna say maybe. The book had me and then it lost me. I think that's literally what I put in my Goodreads review. I think overall it's a really cute story. It was giving me Devil Wears Prada vibes, even though it's not like the same storyline, but like that's what intrigued me in the first place. And it's like set in New York City and it's like fashion based, so I really love the setting of the story. But I found myself often getting disconnected from the love story and honestly not really caring about these two characters. So like that's my big gripe with this one. And I honestly was finding myself wanting to hear more about the fashion industry and the fashion talk and the behind the scenes of like working at this company, and just hearing more about like things they work on and the people that work there, which I'm like, if this is a romance book, you should probably want to care more about the main characters. And yeah, there are just some things that took me out of the book, so I'm gonna say maybe for recommending this book, like if you should read it or not. It was cute. Some of the things that took me out might not take you out, so like it's, if you're intrigued, read it, but I wouldn't say this is one you need to rush to read. And then the second book I read this year was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I'm gonna say this is a no. I would not recommend you to read this. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I do know there is a movie on Netflix, so I really want to watch that, but honestly this book did not do it for me. I mean, I love the cover, especially these sprayed edges, but I genuinely thought going into the book it was going to be really interesting because there's an octopus that's like the main character of the story, which is so interesting. And I've really been trying to branch out into literary fiction this year, but I don't know, this just did not do it for me. I don't think it was a bad book, but it just didn't resonate to me. I feel like there's a lot of fluff in between like the real stuff I wanted, and there were a lot of twists in the books that like I low-key figured out very early on in reading, so I was just like, ugh, like all this in between for a plot twist that I already know is gonna happen. And I do know there are like themes of like loss and grief and change and all that type of stuff, but none of it was necessarily revolutionary to me. Like it's like, okay, yeah, I've read this before, I've heard people talk about this before, and yeah, I just overall just thought it was trying to be deeper than it actually is. But honestly, overall I thought the setting was really cute. I liked some of the characters. There was like one main character I truly did not like him, but overall the characters are okay. I wish we got more of the octopus chapters. Sorry, my mom walked in, so I don't know where I left off. Yeah, I think I left off saying it was very picturesque. I really liked the setting, and I'm glad it ended on a happy note. Oh, I remember. I wanted to see more of the octopus chapters because it's split with octopus POVs and then other things. But yeah, I wish he was more of a theme in this book, because I feel like they make it seem like the book is centered on him. But I don't know. I know a lot of people do love this book though, but I'm still gonna say no, don't waste your time with it. But I do want to watch the movie. And then the third book I read this year was Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, and this is an absolute yes. I would recommend you read this book. So good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and that's does not say anything about the writing or anything. It's just because it didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but it is so good. Everyone should read this book, and this is my first book of this author. I know she also has the book Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and I really want to read that. I just love Coco Miller's writing style. I love this book, especially as a girl who has always wanted sisters. I have a brother, which love him, but I'm like, ugh, I've just always wanted sisters, and like I kind of view my friends as like those are my, you know, stand-in sisters, so that I didn't have. So I always love to read about the sister dynamics and things like that. So I love this book, and it's set in New York City, and I love New York City. Even though I am wearing a Chicago sweatshirt, New York City is my number one. Yeah, I just love New York, so I love that setting. And the story is very character driven, which is my preferred type of story. I love character driven books, and we see all these four sisters, so you get to really see in their minds, which I really like I really love to truly know the characters I'm reading about, and they're all so different, so just seeing their different lives I liked as well. And this book covers so many themes through sisterhood, family dynamics, grief, like everything, and the way Coco Mellers handled it was so beautiful. And there are honestly so many lines that I was like, this is like actual poetry when reading. And like I said, I would definitely be reading more of these books, so yes, go read this story. And then the next book I read, my fourth book of the year, was one that I had to read for school. It is July 2026, but I just graduated with my master's in marketing in May of 2026, and for one of my courses I had to read this book. I'm like, well, I'm still gonna count it towards my reading goal because I'm still putting time reading this book, even though it's not necessarily one I would pick up for myself. But it was called Full Circle: Supply Chain Reimagined, a story of circular supply chain capabilities by Deborah Dole. And even though the author was really sweet, she came and talked to our class, this book was terrible. I will say it was an interesting like business book because it was like a fiction book, so it was a business fictional story, which is interesting. But this whole book was written by AI, which I do not support in that way. You could tell it was written by AI, and it makes so much sense why this author has so many books, because she's just churning them out through AI. And honestly, I don't think it was a good quality book, and you can tell. But no hate to the author, but it was definitely a hard read, I think, due to the AI aspect. But I do think it was an interesting way to like talk about business concepts that's not in a nonfiction book. And then my next book I read was I Who Had Never Known Man by Jacqueline Hartman. Let me go grab that copy real quick. I mean, first of all, the cover already like drew me to this book, and just like the whole premise of the book is so good. So basically it's a book about women who live in like an underground bunker. They don't know how they got there. This book definitely took me through a journey, because when I was starting it, I thought we were gonna go on this grand journey of like what happened to these women, like we're gonna find an answer to like what happened and like what the world they're even in is. But I realized, girl, you're thinking about this book the wrong way. That's not the point of this book. The point of this book is to explore themes of womanhood, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be an individual, especially when stripped of so many things. And then on the back of the book, it says a little bit of background about the author of this book, and you can definitely see echoes of how the author grew up within the story, because it says Jacqueline Hartman was born in Etterbeek, Belgium in 1929 and fled to Casablanca with her family during World War II. And I think that really explains kind of the way this book is written and told. Weirdly, even though this book in a way is kind of so dark, it kind of made me realize and ponder on that idea that we may never understand the decisions that are made around us that affect us by people made in power, but at the end of the day we can still somehow find joy and peace in the little things in our real lives. It was a very thought-provoking book, so this is 100% yes for me. You should read this book, and it's so short too, and the writing style is just so quick. Now, the sixth book I read this year is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston, and I honestly don't have much to say about this book, honestly, but it's gonna be yes, read this book. It was a very solid, fast-paced thriller, and I personally have not read a thriller with this premise before. It's about this girl who's kind of like living under a fake identity, and I said, I think in a reading vlog when I read this, that it was kind of like the main character was kind of reminding me of like a sleeper agent almost, even though like that's not what she is. And yeah, I just have never read a thriller with this kind of plot where someone is living under a fake identity. Like I have read a book about someone living under a fake identity, but not in this way. And wow, it was very good, very solid thriller. And yeah, it just had me hooked from the beginning. interesting. All the plot twists were really good. So again, this is a yes, you should read this. And then the 7th book I read this year so far is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by, I'm not even going to butcher his name, but him. And I actually first heard of this story because I watched the movie like a long time ago. It was like during early COVID days when I genuinely had nothing to do but sit and literally watch like 2 to 3 movies in a row in one sitting, and this was one of those movies and I loved the movie. And so when I realized it was a book, I'm like, I have to read it, and I finally ordered it a while back and I have finally read it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And this book, I said this in my Goodreads, I said this book was so gut-wrenchingly real and devastating while also having a hint of optimism, question mark, question mark, question mark. I think the way this book told gave us a really good insight into Charlie. This is like a coming of age high school story, and our main character is Charlie, and it's told through his letters. So it really, you know, we really got to be in his mind. And as you guys know, I love a character driven story, so this was right up my alley. And honestly, like this, like, I don't know, I actually haven't watched the movie in a while, but like obviously a book that's all letters is going to be translated different into movies, so I really like that. Like I feel like I got to know Charlie even more than I was able to when watching the movie, and I just felt so seen in some of the things that Charlie was feeling. Even though me and him have 2 completely different lives and upbringings and all that type of stuff, I still somehow find myself connecting to him in so many ways, and then also really feeling for him. But then, like I said earlier, finding a bit of optimism, and I think that's truly what it's like coming of age, if you will, and growing up. You go through all these emotions in high school, but then, you know, as you get older, you kind of realize how to deal with things better, and you just have a happier outlook in life. And of course, I just love the mental health representation in this book as someone who also struggles with their mental health. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would urge everyone to read this book. Obviously, don't read this if you're in a bad headspace probably, but it was so good, and I genuinely felt like, what did I read in a good way? After reading this, I'm like, how do I move on from this? Like, all I want to do is thinking about this book. But yeah, so good. So yes, everyone read this. And then I'm going to combine the next 2 books I read because they are in a series. But I read The Naturals by Jennifer L. Barnes, and then the sequel to this, or not the sequel, the second book in the series called Killer Instinct. And essentially it's a 4-book series. I definitely want to get to the other 2 books very soon. I took a quick little break to read a little romance, but we're gonna get back to the series soon. But essentially this book follows, in general, a group of kids who are called the Naturals because they have like these natural gifts, and they were recruited by the FBI to like help solve cold cases. So like I said, they have like these natural talents. So one girl is like very good at like kind of deceiving people in a way. The main girl that we actually follow is called Cassie Hall, and she's a natural at reading people. And so we just kind of see, you know, her step into this program, deal with the other people. There is a little bit of a love triangle, which I'm, let's just say, if you know, you know. After finishing this book, I'm not necessarily happy with who she is at this moment, but hey, I got 2 books. It could change, and I hope it does change. But yeah, it's just so good. And these are YA books, so I was very surprised to realize like, oh wow, this low-key gets a little bit dark because, you know, we're in the mind of serial killers and stuff. I'm like, ooh, I feel kind of like scared reading this, but it's just so good, so fast-paced. I love the Inheritance Game series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, so I knew I was gonna love this, and I can't wait to get into the last 2 books. So if you should read these, definitely. I will say I didn't like this one as much as this one because I didn't necessarily love the story we were following, but it was still super good. I don't think I ever said my ratings for these, but I gave The Naturals a 4 stars out of 5, and then I gave Killer Instinct a 3.5. And so yes, my overall recommendation, read this series. I love these books so much, and even if it does dip, it does not deter me, and it shouldn't deter you from reading the rest of these series. Maybe I'll read the last 2 books in an upcoming reading vlog if you guys will want. And then the next book I've read slash the last like most recent book I've completed, I don't have the final copy of it because I actually got my first arc. I got it so randomly through a podcast that I have with my friend. We sometimes sometimes talk about books on there, and we got reached out to by Penguin Random House to get an arc of this book called Fossil Feud by Maggie North, and it is like a paleontology romance, and I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. It does not come out until July 28th, so keep your calendars marked for that date, because I'm already gonna tell you guys, read it. It was so good. Even though I did get early access, all my opinions are real. But yeah, dare I say, this is the read of summer 2026. It was just so interesting, and the way it was pitched to us was, if you're fans of Ali Hazelwood, you will love this book, and I have to agree, it's that same vibe of a workplace romance. And I've never read a book that has anything to do about paleontology, and it did not take away from like the romance aspects of the book at all. It really added to it, which I enjoyed, and I just love the backdrop. And I just love the backdrop of this story because it was set in Montana. This book is set during excavation season, which like happens in the paleontology field before like they do other stuff. I don't really know. The backdrop was just so dreamy, and I thought it was interesting that like the book is like kind of like set in America, but neither of the main characters are American. The male main character is British and the female main character is Canadian. I don't know, for some reason I just really thought that was interesting, and just kind of really learned a lot about the paleontology field when reading this book. I'm like, wow, this is so interesting. And again, it never took away from the story, and the story truly felt like reading a rom-com. Like, these two main characters get into some situations that it's like, how did you guys get here? And it's so funny, but it's like perfect because it's like that forced proximity, and it's like, yes, they're gonna be spending more time together even though they hate it. It's a bit enemies to lovers, but not really. The female main character just kind of has like low-key one-sided beef with the man, and it's just all miscommunication, of course. I love it, and you can just see it's one of those books where it's like the guy falls first. Oh, I should probably say their names. The female main character's name is Ripley, and the male main character's name is James. He was down bad. It's definitely giving the man falls first. My only critique of the book is when we were switching between like different styles of dialogue, I feel like the writing was a bit clunky, so I don't know if they're gonna fix that before they like fully publish this book. But other than that, I loved it. It was a perfect summer read while mixing in the workplace aspect of it. It was a good amount of spice too. That wasn't like, okay guys, what are we doing? And I think everyone should read it this summer. It's so good. So again, should you read this book? Yes. And then my next and last book that we're going to be talking about is Yesteryear by Carol Claire Bird. And I have not finished this book, but I still wanted to include it in the book wrap up just to say like, this is what I'm currently reading. I'll give you guys my like full thoughts, and the wrap up that will be the later half of the year, about halfway through. Essentially, I'm sure you guys have all heard what this book is about, but it is about this triad wife influencer who has to go back in time. She wakes up back in time during the time period where she like is actually romanticizing and has to like actually live the lifestyle that she promotes. She's set back in 1855, so it's a really crazy story so far. I have no idea where it's going. I have a couple of ideas. In the beginning a little bit, it was giving me the Truman Show vibe, so like, I don't know. I'm not sure where this is going, so I'm not gonna put any guesses out there so far, because like I'm a little bit like almost halfway, I believe, or like halfway through the book, and I probably shouldn't like recommend it already since I haven't finished it, but I'm gonna say it's a yes. You guys should read it. But I'll give you guys more final thoughts about this book in maybe a future vlog, or for sure in my second part of this video when the year is over with the books I've read in the second half of the year. So that is the end of this video. I just love talking about books so much. I'm a reader girl at heart. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Comment down below like a book emoji and what's the last book you have read. Don't forget to also like and subscribe because that helps me out a lot, and it's free, and I really want to grow and reach more girlies and more book girlies. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.